Welcome back to another episode of Life After Sunday. We got a lot to unpack today. We're going to take a dive into some pagers blowing up. We're going to talk about windmills coming to Arkansas, the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and we're going to talk about some Ecclesiastes, chasing the wind. What we chased, it doesn't even really matter. And if we have time, we'll get into a little NIL talk. What is up, gentlemen?
What up?
What's up?
Hey, man. It's a happy Sunday. Hogs won.
Oh, yeah. It was a great football weekend. I mean, there was just some great games all around. Man, it's just been a great football weekend.
It really was a good football weekend. Hogs came through and got the W. I think we'll win next week too.
I think so too. I'm really
Aggies, man. Dude, the Aggies. I had to deal with them so much. Everybody I worked with was an Aggie, and giggle. And I've actually been to their stadium a couple times. It's a beautiful stadium. They're good, nice people. My hatred of the Aggies is only that they've beaten us every single time since Bobby Petrino was our coach. Am I correct on that?
Not true.
But BP's back.
Bobby actually had a winning record against them.
Please let us win.
BP's back,
Please
baby.
Let us win. All right, first things first. How in the world did Israel take out an encrypted pager system? Somebody, please tell me.
Wow. Israel, I think people don't understand how far on the cutting edge of technology that Israel is. Because we think that us being Americans, that we are the echelon of the smart and we're on top of everything. But like even Israel's bombing system that takes down bombs that are being shot at them every day is way more advanced than anything that we have, other than atomic bombs. But other than that, I mean, their technology is second to none.
Hey, their technology. Matter of fact, when we had our system that could download phones at the PD, the software written is from an Israeli company. Shocker.
Right.
Their high technology is next level. Now they can't produce it at a mass scale like we do. We even incorporate some of their electronics into our military stuff. But the exploding pagers, I actually read up on this, and it's fascinating because the reason pagers mattered is because they were putting bombs on foreheads of people using cell phones. We did it all through the War on Terror. Cell phones are extremely easy to track. So Hezbollah, who works out of Lebanon, they're an Iranian proxy group, decided to switch to pagers. And apparently Israel had been working on this for years, waiting for the day. Well, when they switched to pagers, they bought them from a company in Taiwan who shipped them to a company in Hungary. And then somewhere along the way, there was an Israeli shell company that showed to be a legit business, but was actually the Mossad, most likely. And they got them, put the miniaturized explosives in them because they didn't heat them up or send some signal to them to make, they actually put miniature explosives in them. And then Hezbollah paid them. Isn't that brilliant? They got paid for the bombs that would kill them. And then here's the third leg of this, which is just why it's so fascinating. Once, I think they said 4,000 injured, and the numbers keep changing on killed. It wasn't that many. It was like, I saw one less than 20, and then I saw another one maybe up to 40. But every person injured, they've got people over there writing down the names, taking all the information, because the only people who would have those pagers were from the terrorist organization Hezbollah. So they got paid for the bombs. They took the guys out or maimed them for life. Then they got the names of them, and now they've completely disrupted on the eve of them going probably across the border. They've destroyed their communication system. I mean, this is a modern day Trojan horse event, man. I mean, it's off the charts.
It absolutely is. And what did they? So, Mike, what did Israel do that actually triggered that explosive that was inside the pager? How did they trigger it?
So that part was easy because all you're doing is sending a page, and they said that they made the page look like it came from the commanders, and they even built in a delay so that a lot of the guys, like one of the Iranian elected official or one of the higher up Iranians, got blinded because they waited a minute so that they would pull the pager up and look at it, and then they popped it. So a lot of guys, you saw videos, it popping in their pocket. And then other guys, like I'd be a guy who got it in the face. 'Cause as soon as it go off, I'd be looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
So they just used that part's easy. The trigger device is easy. Infiltrating the supply chain with miniaturized bombs that were in there, and that all went to the terrorist organizations. Just, man, that's like next level stuff.
How'd they get them
almost like?
Say it again.
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Eric.
How'd they know when to explode? I mean, how'd they know? Because was that the very first page,
right,
that the pager? How did all of them get the exact same page at the exact same?
No.
I mean,
I don't understand that part. They had all the pagers, so they had all the pagers, so they had all the numbers of the pagers. So they just sent out a mass, basically like sending out a mass text to all those pagers at one time.
So anybody else would have paged them.
That's how they got them.
It would have blown up too.
No,
because it was coming from a certain number.
They had to. It was very specific, and they also believe they allowed Hezbollah to use the pagers for a couple months, and they were gathering the intel that was coming off those pagers.
That makes
sense. And the reason
they
decided to go ahead and activate it is the Mossad was getting intel information that said that their plot could possibly be. They were somebody was about to figure out that these were bad pagers, so they hit it and got it done.
Didn't they do radios too?
Yeah, the walkie-talkies, there was like walkie-talkies the next day. After the pagers, they had a bunch of walkie-talkies that blew up.
They did. And Hezbollah, because they don't make anything, nor are they friends with really anybody who makes everything, when you're a terrorist organization and you depend on technology, there's always a potential to have anything you get infiltrated. And that's why in the early days of the war on terror, they were using carriers, literal human beings taking paper messages from one person to another. And then we started taking those guys out. But that technology will always, Israel's always going to have, the only way you can defeat technology, just like with your phone tracking and everything else, you got to go back to like paper days. And even then they can find your paper, but everything is tracked.
It's almost like that Israel has the hand of God on their side.
Yes, I was just going to say, I mean, it's just like, these are God's chosen people. And I mean, just like with the Tower of Babel, I mean, the men tried to put this Tower of Babel up to make it to hire to God. And then he just made it to where there's all these different languages and they couldn't communicate with each other. Well, it's another chance that he just showed that he's going to make it where they can't communicate with each other.
And what's funny, Bob, I don't know if you weren't on our episodes earlier when we talked about it, but when we were talking about politics and stuff, it seems like ever since the United States has been Israel's number one ally, that we have been blessed as a country.
Absolutely.
And as you see, more and more Democrats are the main ones who are beginning to not support Israel. The day the U.S. government isn't Israel's number one ally is going to be a bad day for this country, because there is something to us being blessed and supporting them, in my opinion.
But no, it's not. It's not. There's just something. The Bible specifically says
Yeah.
those that back Israel they're backing God's people, and they'll be blessed because of it. I mean, it's very plain. Israel's not going to lose. They may lose a battle, but they ain't going to lose a war. It's just not going to happen. And so
it's neat. It's neat to see it happening right before our eyes, because you see it in the Bible, but Israel should not be as amazing as they are. They're surrounded for thousands of miles in every direction except for one side with an ocean. The entire neighborhood hates them. The entire country, everything around them is of a third world status. And yet here's this modern democracy with this high technology, beautiful skyscrapers, beautiful cities in this area of a third world country where everybody hates them. I mean, it's neat to see the Bible playing out in front of your eyes.
I was just looking up some scriptures, and it says all the way back in Genesis 12:3, it says, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all nations of the earth be blessed. So, and that's talking about Israel. Yeah.
That's right. All nations will be blessed through Israel. Through them. Not so you can either be for them or against them, but you're going to lose if you're against them.
I read the back of the book.
Yeah, that's right. And then the whole thing about them being at war, we shouldn't be surprised by this, because the Bible specifically tells us that they will remain at war. That all the other guys, they're like wild men. You know, that's what the Bible says. They're like wild men. They're gonna be at war with each other because they can't settle themselves.
It's a good point.
If you go, who was it in the Bible in the Old Testament where they split? And he says, like, he was talking about everyone else would be like the sand of the earth, and they would live like wild men.
It was because of Isaac, but there's
Isaac
a son
and Ishmael.
before. But there's a son, but yes, they say there's a son before Isaac, and that's Ishmael. And Ishmael is all of those others. They're descendants of Ishmael.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ishmael is the one that God said, that those descendants would be as wild men, and there would be wars, and there were rumors of wars, and they would stay at war with each other because of Ishmael was not God's plan. That was he took that into his own hands and tried to make. And that's kind of like for us sometimes, whenever we know, like, it's so hard sometimes when you know where God wants you to be, and so you try to make it happen for yourself. And so when you're trying to make it for yourself, you end up screwing it up, because you sometimes you just need to sit back and let God work instead of, because we get involved and think that we know best, but we don't.
His ways are higher than my ways.
Yeah.
But like, how old was Sarah and Abraham when they had Isaac?
They were in the 90s.
Yeah. Just imagine
like
praying your whole life for a kid.
Yeah.
And then you're 90.
That sounds horrible.
No wonder they took it on their own hands.
Yeah.
I'd be depressed.
Yeah. Well, but think about it. Okay. I mean, let's just be honest. Your wife comes to you, okay, and says, I think I got this figured out. I'm barren, but my maiden over here, she's not. And so I think God's saying we should take her and you should put a child in her. And he's like,
you're going, what?
Okay. I mean,
But that
awesome.
thing was not uncommon back then. That's how it was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah. But,
Different world,
Yeah.
man.
that happened today. You'd be watching for that frying pan coming up the side of your head.
Boy, I'm telling you.
That was a
telling ya.
joke. That was
Yeah.
a test.
Cast iron skillet, son.
That's right. Ting.
Man. But yeah, man, Israel is the blessed people, man, and we gotta pray for peace in Israel. The Bible tells us to pray for that peace. We gotta support them. We gotta back them. They're God's people. And moving on.
That's why. That's why the U.S. has lasted as long and been as prosperous as it has been. Is because we have prayed for Israel and backed Israel.
100%
If we ever stop doing
agree.
that, we stop doing that, and we're going to have issues.
Yeah, we're in bad trouble. So we live in the great state of Arkansas. It's beautiful here, and especially Northwest Arkansas, the Ozarks, the Boston Mountains. I love hiking, camping up there. But I've heard a story recently that makes me cringe because some of that could be in jeopardy with these stupid windmills.
Windmills. Oh, I
Are
wanted
you
to share
serious?
this. Yes, man. Our beautiful state it was in the paper on Monday. Came out that there are 3 wind farms planned for Arkansas. 2 of them are in a place that makes a little logical sense outside of the argument of windmills are even effective or just the dumbest thing ever because they kill eagles and they create tons of waste and they're very inefficient in energy production. But aside from that, so yes, they got the windmill or the field's called Crossover by Wind. That's going to have 32 turbines. So that's relatively small, but it's going to, when you're out there driving in eastern Arkansas and seeing that flat land, when these suckers go up, you're going to see them from 10 miles away. I mean, they're massive. And then the other one is by Memphis. This one is going to have 90 turbines, okay? They have leased 21,000 acres, and 30 landowners are seeing dollar signs in their eyes and not thinking too much about what it does to our state. And then here's the one the only one that's meeting any resistance is the Nimbus project, and that's east of Bentonville and between Bentonville and Eureka Springs.
Yeah.
And that one, I don't believe it listed.
That one's dumb.
I'm telling you.
That was dumb.
I don't care what you put in eastern Arkansas. Put it all over Memphis. Put it in there.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Over by Memphis, there's not much, because that's what I'm thinking. Oklahoma can have them because Oklahoma's not pretty.
No,
it's not. It's not pretty.
Well, and it's funny because my wife, being an OU person, she's from Oklahoma, and so I've always harassed her about how there's nothing there. But these wind farms, I mean, so you go to Oklahoma, and the one thing that you learn to appreciate about the flatness is like when the sun's setting, you have your eyes cannot take in the sky that you can see because there's nothing to block it. Same thing with a big thunderstorm. Like the views you get are next level. Well, now just about anywhere in southwest Oklahoma, man, windmills everywhere. They've taken one little mountain range they've got south of Norman that had a beautiful waterfall in it. If you've ever driven from Oklahoma City to Dallas on 35, you'll cross over one little tiny mountain range, and it is now, I haven't been there in forever. I used to go to Houston, to see Monica. There was nothing there. That whole top of the mountain range is littered with windmills, and it's disgusting. It's ugly. It's terrible. Check this out, too. These windmills, you got to think, Crow Mountain's roughly 400 feet tall. The tip height of these turbines are 632 feet high.
Jeez.
Wow.
I mean, are you serious? And the article gets better. It says that in Arkansas in the southeast, because they pretty much maxed out like the Oklahoma area, because we're not a windy area. So what's their solution is to build the turbines taller to reach the wind that is above the surface. So they're going to build higher windmills. And then here, y'all are going to love this. Arkansas Democrat, man, loved that paper my whole life. It was one of the more moderate papers. They still have great articles about what's going on in Arkansas, but it's beginning to get that liberal lean. And so what I'm fixing to inform y'all on is that if you don't like windmills, that you're racist. Just letting you know. That's what the paper said.
What?
Yes.
Good
just in case.
night.
Yeah, add that to the list, my friend. Let me get down here. I'm reading this article, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, I don't really like windmills. And then I keep reading and reading, and then I get down here, and I'm like, I read about something called energy privilege. Apparently, if you're not for renewables, it's because you have energy privilege. So let that soak in your pipe
Energy
for a
privilege.
second. Yeah, soak that in. And so
I pay for my energy. I pay for my energy, but I'm energy privileged.
Yes, no, you're energy privileged because you should want, Bob, you're a bad person. You should want to pay higher energy costs.
Yeah.
And if the wind stops blowing, you don't have any energy. So then that causes the market to skyrocket in price, causes a reduction in energy. But you're a bad person if you don't like that. That's what the paper said, man. Here it is. I'm going to give you all the quote. In the United States, opposition was more likely and more intense with an area of higher proportion of white people, end quote, according to the study. In Canada, the same pattern held for wealthier community. This suggests an environmental justice challenge that we term, quote, energy privilege, wherein the delay and cancellation of in clean energy in wealthier, whiter communities leads to pollution in poorer communities and communities of color.
Oh, them racist windmills.
I'm telling you, man, does that just blow your mind?
When they don't know what to call something, or they don't know, they can't turn it against us, they say it's racist.
So because
That's
then
their
you can't say
fallback.
anything about it.
Yes, that's their fallback.
Once something's labeled racist, now we as white males can't say a word about it no more.
That's right.
But whoa,
and that's why they do that. And Eric, I'm gonna let you. I know you got thoughts on this. This is how they silence you from talking, because we all have an internal guilt mechanism, and they're playing on that guilt mechanism to shut you up. What would you go say, Eric?
Yeah, I was just that's absolutely right. They know we're good people at heart, like all Americans, pretty much at heart are just good people, right? We don't want to hurt anybody. We want to get along with everybody. We want to do our thing, work hard for our families, and go home. We don't want to cause any trouble. So, and they know that, and so they're going to try to make us feel guilty to go along with this crap. But I wanted to back up. The windmills themselves, isn't there like a lot of hard factual data out there that these things are pretty much worthless overall? I mean,
okay, yeah. So the term worthless, if we do that, they're going to say that we're dumb.
Yeah, you're right.
So we'll just call them highly inefficient. When you look at
because how long does it take to get your investment back? Because that's what I look at. Okay, we put this amount of money in. How long is it going to take before I get return on my investment? It's going to take forever.
Or do you?
Well,
and the other thing is, I don't know if you thought about this. You're talking about them having to be taller. That means they're going to have to be wider at the bottom.
Yes.
If they're taller, they got to be wider. And so now they take up even more real estate.
Well, one of the things that you'll, if you read, Google's not the best search engine, but the amount of scrap and they don't know what to do when these windmills go out. You got these massive blades, and they're typically made of fiberglass. They've got glue resin in them, and they don't know what to do with them. Like they're not able to turn them into something else. So you've got
they're not renewable.
No. And then you've got that the wind doesn't always blow. Ask me how I know, because I lived in Texas when the windmills froze up, and I had no electricity for 4 days because the grid had to start accepting blackouts because the wind didn't blow and they didn't have enough instant natural gas / coal ready to fire up. So you've got that. And then the space that they take up is enormous. And then I actually watched a special the other day. They built some windmills. I can't remember what state it was in or if it was even in Europe. And they were killing bald eagles. And so what they first started with was a person who sat with binoculars watching over the windmill. When they would see an eagle, they would stop that windmill. Because the way eagles, I learned this, I'm not this smart. The way eagles are built, like their eyebrows actually come out a little bit to block sunlight, so that when they're flying and scanning for prey, it's like a hat, covering their eyes. Well, when they're flying and looking down, they don't see the giant windmill ahead of them, and so they're crashing into them. All kinds of birds are. So they created a system. It's literally a robot that is powered by AI with cameras 360 degrees around it. And it scans, and when it finds an eagle, it zeroes in on it and automatically shuts down that turbine.
Wait a minute.
Have we entered idiocracy yet?
Hold on a minute. I'm picturing a 691 foot tall windmill with a turbine that's God knows how long and heavy and big. They don't just stop.
No.
Right.
You don't just flip the switch.
And they don't just start back up.
Oh.
So in general,
they're burning more energy than they're making.
That's what I'm saying. First, back up a little bit. The energy that they produce, I'm trying to say this the right way. Why do we keep pursuing this if we know it doesn't work consistently?
Well,
now you're into politics.
Never mind.
Yeah.
That's like those. That's
so
like
let me
those
ask you this:
houses of soybeans that we've got down by the river that's been there for so many years that if you go down there, that the government pays for us to have down there as a surplus, but you go down there and they're just dust now because they never were used.
Yeah,
I mean it's government.
So speaking of government, my question is this. How is there nothing, or first of all, is this going to happen in Arkansas, or is it just an idea at the moment?
Two of them are happening. Two of them are happening because the government can't stop it, because the landowners, and you notice that, they're rich landowners for the most part, because 21,000 acres was owned by 30 people. So the pursuit of money is going to always overcome, well, the land's pretty, let's just leave it alone. And so that's what they're doing.
They leased out that land way before they really told them what they're going to do with that land.
Yeah.
They bought the lease on those lands several years back, and then now are just bringing in what's happening.
When is that going to happen?
They're actually... The two of the wind farms are in the next 2 years will be up. You'll see them when you're going toward Memphis. Now, that one up in northwest Arkansas, hopefully there's enough blowback that we don't destroy our beautiful Ozarks. And see, that's the other thing. That area that they're in is not technically in the national forest, I believe. It's the private land through there. And so it's going to be hard to stop it.
And I saw some interviews of like a lady was talking about, well, when they start putting those in, they're going to have to blast, ground to get it to be able to put it in. Well, a bunch of the people that live out there in the hills, they are all on well water. And so they need those springs that are underground to give them water because there is no city water out there. Well, when they start blasting that ground, they're going to empty out some of those water reservoirs that are there, and every one of them, their homes, they'll have to leave their homes because they can't get water no more.
Well, and along those same lines, one of their concerns that they mentioned is that area is above these aquifers, and in order for you to have aquifers, you have to have land that is, the rock has to be porous. So one of the concerns is when they put these heavy turbines on there, because it's a lot of weight in a relatively small area, like compared to, I don't know, a building or something. It's a ton of weight in a little area. They're worried about, is it going to start crushing the aquifers? So then you're trying to blast in there to make sure that the ground is good. But it actually did talk about that. And here's the other thing we haven't talked about, that when you put windmills, you're reducing farm area. Same thing with solar panels. So I hope that I hope the governor can, because, Texas destroyed through windmills. When I moved there in 1999, they had their own electric grid, and it was the most stable electric grid in the world. And it has gone in 25 years to unstable. Not sure if they can produce enough energy for peak wattage during the summer and in extreme winter events, because they keep shutting down instant power availability in the gas plants, and they've replaced a ton of it with wind. And so now it's an unstable energy project. And so, let's hope Arkansas doesn't get into this, man.
And I hope they don't. Speaking of chasing the wind, man,
good
King
intro,
Solomon,
right?
Ecclesiastes, what in the world is he talking about in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 11, when he says, "Then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, it was all vanity and a striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun." King Solomon right here, he was testing pleasures of this life. Am I right? Am I right in saying that? I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He would, and what he found after doing all that, even pleasures that he thought were okay, like pleasures that were good, he found that it was all vanity, all in vain, all meaningless. Mike, start with you first, man. This is your idea, so take us into what's going on here.
I love it because when you put in chasing the wind, I mean, he was even sleeping with like multiple, sleeping with everything. This guy was doing everything, and whenever he just came back to it, he learned that it was all meaningless. And it's kind of neat sometimes when you reflect on these verses. Sometimes you don't realize it, but in the fast pace of life, sometimes you'll find yourself that you're literally chasing nothing. And that could be as if you have, not needs, but wants. You're spending money on stuff you don't need. And I even had to use this with my son, who he's a senior at Ouachita. He's second string. He had goals of being the starter for 2 years. It hasn't worked out. I think he's good enough, but the coach apparently doesn't. And it's been a tough time for him. And then last night after the game, he put in a subpar player. Of course, I'm dad. I think that to play a couple plays when a guy got hurt. It was pretty insulting. And it was that moment where I realized football in the grand scheme of things is meaningless. It's chasing the wind. It's irrelevant. How are your studies going? He made it to church today, so I was proud of him. But that was just another example, because you got to think, like in competitive sports, we've all been there or have kids in it. You can get wrapped up in it. It could start, like, if you feel like the coach is not doing your kid right, man, you can get yourself whirled up into anger, and be mad about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal, and you got to stop and realize we're just chasing the wind. This ultimately doesn't matter. Go ahead. Anybody else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thought
Shadow
you were going to
boxing.
say?
Yeah.
Shadow box.
Shadow
That's a good way
boxing,
to look at it.
man. Yeah. That's what it is. I mean, just like, working out. I've spent a good part of my life working out and trying to build a physique at one time, and it only profits little. The Bible tells us it only profits little. There's not a whole lot of profit in it. Uh, it at some, you're going to get older. These things kind of go away, and so we spend so much of our brain power chasing things that ultimately, at the end of the day, or even at the end of our lives, will never be remembered. And the things that you put into other people, the bringing God into their life, and them seeing the things that can change their lives, that they will take with them forever. That's the things that have substance. Things that will be remembered about you are not the things you have, are not the things, even some of the things you said and done. It's the things that you have done and said for other people that will hold profit.
Well, it's funny. I thought about this. So when you retire, you get some good reflection on things. And one thing I did do well was I knew that to never take myself too seriously, and that whenever I retired, life's going to go on. No one cares. And I did do good in that arena. But I think back to those times, like my first 15 years, where you get so wound up, worried about what somebody thinks of you. Or do they think I'm doing a good job? Am I working hard enough? Just
Yeah.
toiling and getting stressed out over dumb stuff, for years at your job. And now as I retire, I cannot tell you how meaningless that was. I did a good job. I'm proud of that. But what I brought with me were a group of friends that I retain now in retirement from that job. That means more than, I've got a book this thick of all the different things, that I've done, or things that happened that just caused me so much stress and grief. And they were all pointless and meaningless, And it's like, you wish you could realize that when you're going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got my little plaque of when I was inducted into the Atkins Hall of Fame, and it's sitting in the drawer
That's
in the
right.
closet.
100%.
And that's chasing the wind.
Hey, and when we were
and,
young
and,
like that,
that's great and that's awesome, but
when you're young and you're dumb, like you thought that mattered, like and
yeah,
you thought that everybody else thought that meant you mattered. And even for a while, after I graduated, I put up like my, at the end of the year, you get your little plaques with your awards on it. I leave it up in my room, in my little office, and I thought, how dumb is this? This is high school. Like, I'm proud of it, but it's meaningless, And at the time, we just thought it was everything.
Eric, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm just kind of, piggybacking on what you guys are saying. When you're young, you don't know it. You don't realize that stuff until now. Here you are, or we are, except for Chris. He's still young, but here we are at, I'm 50, and now that stuff makes sense. You wish you wouldn't have worked all those overtime shifts on the ambulance, Eric, or you wouldn't have, worked all those overtime shifts at the fire department, or just, worked yourself into the ground. You wish you'd have taken more time to do meaningful things. So,
Make memories.
yeah,
yep.
I even struggle with it now. Like it's almost like a thing of priority. Like, are your priorities in line and right? Like, and just a few weeks ago, my wife had to check me and say, "Hey, you need to get your priorities right," and It goes along the same lines to me.
But there is a fine line there, because just like for me, for instance, with my daughter playing softball, I mean, I'm not going to be able to make every game because I've got to go work. I've got to go provide for my family because I'm the head of my household, and I'm a provider. And so you got to learn how to balance those things, because you got to be a provider, but then you also don't want to end up at the end and have missed everything.
Yeah, that's tough.
And yeah, I mean, so there's that balance that's got to happen.
I saw it, and I've kind of talked about it before. Are y'all hearing feedback or anything real quick?
Somebody's microphone is having an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real bad. I'm hearing it too. I'm hearing it pretty bad.
So we apologize to our listeners. Yeah, it's like static or something. Maybe it's the power cord. But anyway, I noticed it.
It's the FBI listening to us.
They are, and they can kiss my ass.
Yeah, it's the FBI, NSA listening to us.
Never talk to the FBI, because if you say one thing to them, they can get you for lying to the police. So the only law enforcement organization in this country that can prosecute you for lying to them, so you never speak to them, and they can never be trusted because they don't want it. They don't want recordings. We actually had to turn recordings off. We record everything because we're supposed to, and they don't want recordings of anything. So forget those people. You can't trust them.
It happened this week. It happened this week to some poor guy. I don't know. I say poor guy. I don't know who he is, but it was on X. He apparently been posting some stuff, and they came to his house, and he whips his phone out and starts recording them. And those two dudes, they wouldn't talk about squat.
See, I digress, but to add one more piece to that, we record everything. And when people would break out cell phones, we're like, that's great, because my little camera right here is recording too. Like, we're good. Like, we record all you want. Mm-hmm. And so why are they so anti-recording? You know, it's just, it's a joke. But going back to
come out
anyway,
that's right. Yeah. Chasing the wind and money. I think it did. But chasing the wind, like in law enforcement, we've talked about it before. A lot of police officers that I know got addicted to working extra jobs, and they may tell themselves, and some people, maybe it's true, that all these extra jobs they work on the weekends, not spending time with their families, because it's not that they needed it, because we got paid well. They were chasing, they're chasing money. Not all of them. So if you hear me talking, I'm not talking about all of you, but there are some who became addicted to it. Like, it became more of a priority than their job. Like, the extra job was the priority, and guys would get in fights and arguments over who's going to get the extra job, and they spend their weekends and after work, and before they know it, they're going to blink, and their kids are grown, and they've got a new vehicle in the driveway or something else that is completely irrelevant to life. And it's just something that I think when the Bible says, and it does say this somewhere, help me out, that the money is the root of all evil.
No,
or is that just a wives' tale?
It says the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah,
and man,
money is an amplifier. Money will amplify who you are or what you're doing. Money is just an action. It's an amplifier of your things. The love of money is the root of all evil.
There you go.
That happened to me, Mike.
King Solomon had all the money in the world.
Go
back to that, Eric.
I was like, that happened to me for years. I got addicted to working and working the extra job, the next thing, the next assignment, the next class, the next, team you could join, the next. I did that for years and years, and it became the only thing that I had in my life that defined me. It was it. That was it. I had all the stuff that should have been defining me, but it wasn't. Work was. Got lost in it for a long, long time.
So glad you got out of that, man, and that you figured that out. Kudos to you for figuring it out. And Chris, what did you say? You said Solomon had all the money in the world, and he came to the same conclusion, didn't he?
Exactly. But he even says that he was going after legitimate pleasures, things that like he thought were like this is okay, you know. And I think the point of the whole that whole section of scripture is don't forget God.
Right.
Don't forget Him if you when you have all this wealth or when you're doing good and when you're doing all these things. When you're on the mountaintop, it's easy to forget Him. It's easy to remember Him when you're in the valley.
And take advantage of the beauty He puts in front of you. And again, a lot of people make fun of me, but stopping and listening to a bird sing, stopping and looking at a beautiful squirrel gathering up his nuts for winter, the sunset, storms. This is all free, right? Like when I was riding through the forest this weekend, taking a second to take a deep breath of the incredible smell of pine mixed in with the sweetness of some flower out beside me. That is all free, you know, and it brings joy to your life, man. There's stuff right in front of our face. Stop and look up. Look up at night. How long has it been since somebody has walked outside and just stared up at the sky we have blessed to us here in Arkansas that isn't covered in light pollution and everything else? Stop and look at it. Little things.
I've done that the last 2 nights.
We do that since we built the new deck on the back of the house, and man, we've spent lots of nights out here just staring up at the stars, watching the satellites come through, and looking for shooting stars and all that kind of stuff, you know. So
How about that harvest moon? How about that harvest moon? Because I know you're facing it, so you get to see it rise up. Your deck's facing the east.
Yeah.
So is mine.
Yeah, and it's huge when it rises up back here.
I spent
but you know, all of that.
Sorry.
You're good.
I spent 2 nights this week putting together Chinese-made patio furniture till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night outside by myself, watching that moon rise up.
That scripture connects to you can have all the things in the world, but if you don't have love, you can have the greatest voice. You can be something great, but if you don't have love, you're a clanging cymbal. You're a sounding brass.
That, my friend, is why you're seeing P. Diddy. Y'all know about the P. Diddy story. Woo! And him going to jail. And let me tell you, the Epstein, isn't it ironic that Bob makes that point, and yet all these folks who are rich with everything that they can get, they cannot find happiness. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just think that that's such an awesome example. As a matter of fact, I saw a tweet today where I watched a video, and this was a video of Megan Fox talking about, and it was legit. She was talking about some of these bizarre things that they do when they start drinking and doing drugs, about drinking little drops of each other's blood. I mean, bizarro stuff.
Yeah.
And that just kind of emphasizes the point that Bob just made.
Hey, did you see where Megan Fox and Pink and we're going down a rabbit hole here, but they've all deleted their entire Twitter posts from all their deals. Supposedly they might be connected to this.
They're worried about jail, brother.
Yeah.
Yep.
They've all they deleted everything they posted on X, and something. Yeah.
It's a sick,
don't get on the rabbit hole, but
sick culture. Yeah. That is a sick
culture
culture
in
Hollywood.
House, dude. Some of the stuff they found in Diddy's house. Go read it. I'm not going to get into it here, but yeah. Anyway,
go read it. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it's wild,
twisted, demonic stuff, man. Just look at all these singers. These, like, I love rock music. All these rock band frontmen that have took their life because they have no peace. They have no peace, and it's sad, man. It really is. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it's just they don't have no peace. That's all I can say. No peace, and they kill themselves because of they have all this money, all the money in the world. Can't
Chasing
buy
the
love,
wind,
can't buy
baby.
happiness.
But it's just like the disciples when they asked Jesus, which of these commandments is the greatest? And he comes back and says, there's two of them. And that's to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And on
Those are
these
hard,
two
but
things,
hard.
hang your life.
There you go.
So you think about that. You got a shelf that you're putting on the wall, and it's got two nails. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. And everything else in life stacks on top of that shelf. If you don't have one of them, that shelf falls and everything falls with it. If you don't have those two things in your life, then you're fighting to win, or those two things are the most important. And if you do those two things, all the other commandments fall in line. Everything
Jesus said,
else
I come
falls
to
in line.
fulfill the law. And those two commandments, they include they include everything. If you do those two things, like you said, you will be doing what you're supposed to be doing. And they sound easy. But it's tough.
Yeah.
They're tough.
It's a continual work of our lives, though, is to make sure that shelf is level, so that we can stack other things on it, so that God is the center of it. Because without Him on the right and the left of it, then it falls.
We're just toiling.
Yeah.
That's the words of Solomon. Toiling.
I think I did that earlier.
No.
The foundation, that foundation, like you said, Bob, is everything. It really is. And
yeah.
What's that old, used to sing a song, when we were kids in church, and, it's a scripture, but it's the guy that builds his house on the sand, and it just quick to wash away. But when you build your house on the rock, it's going to be there forever. No matter what bats you down, if you're poor, if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're, like I said, if you're in the top of the mountain, or if you're in the valley, you're going to be the same. You're going to have that peace. And we dealt a little bit with that today, with what happened with my mother-in-law, and we were on our way to the hospital, and, I was telling her and Carrie, it's times like this when we have to activate our faith, when you have to, do we really believe what we say we believe? Do we really believe God's in control? Do we really believe those things? It's easy to say that when you're in church, when everything's going good. What about when your mom has a seizure in church and you're taking her to the hospital? Can you believe it then? That's
And
right.
You know what? That and the whole thing is right in that moment. See, God put you in control. He put you in control. That control's been put into us because we are the ones that are to have the domain of the earth. And so your words of what you spoke there over her, the actions that you took, are the ones that are godly actions and godly words.
right.
See, because He speaks through you and works through you in that. And so that we can know that God is there for us in all things, because He gave us dominion to do it. And if your foundation isn't solid, and I'm talking to you men right now, all you men out there, where's your foundation? If your foundation is not solid with God, then man, you're just going to be shifted with the waters as they come, and your whole life is going to have way ups and way downs. But when you get on that solid foundation, now you can start to build and actually have something that lasts the test of time.
Well said.
Preach on, brother.
Nice.
Hey, Chris, before we end, Dudes, two books I'll throw out there for people if you're interested in learning more about the world. This book by Peter Schweitzer called Red Handed. This is what the title looks like.
Yes.
And man, when you read this, you're going to learn how corrupt the former politicians all go into these think tanks, and they become part of these organizations that are helping China. And you'll see how gross it is. Like former defense secretaries going and working for China, going and teaching classes in China, saying how great China is, and then just trashing our country because you won't get paid if you say anything bad about China. So I just finished that one. Highly recommend it. And then the other one I just started today. It's called the Parasitic Mind. It's actually a good book. It's yellow. I don't know if that comes through. The Parasitic Mind, and it's basically about the war against truth. If we don't win it with intellectual freedom, we will be a casualty. Just about don't lose your common sense. Don't be brainwashed, and learn to think for yourself and apply common sense principles to all this garbage coming out of Washington. Good books.
Yeah,
well, that's a wrap.
I read Red Handed. That's a great book. Mind blowing.
Have you? Did you?
Yeah.
Were you shocked at all the officials?
Oh, dude, yeah. And then that's the one where it goes into like not just politicians. We're talking about public figures, sports, like the NBA,
it goes over LeBron James.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I've read that one. It's a great book, man. It's been out for a hot minute, hasn't it?
Great book, man. Yeah, and what's funny about it is I think I know the world, but when I started reading the names like Jeb Bush, the Rhino Republicans, like getting paid when he lost the presidential bid and he goes and works for some company connected to the Chinese. And then you read about George Bush and you read about William Cohen, and then the technology sector. They're all helping China develop their AI to censor their population. Man, it's just gross. It was a great book.
Yeah. Yep.
Bob, you got anything else?
No, man, it's good.
Man,
I was raised in a middle-class family. Nobody got that.
Yeah, me too.
It's all right. Yeah.
I did. That's Kamala.
Thank you, Mike.
That's Kamala Harris, man.
Have you seen the?
Yeah.
Speaking of, you brought up that name, and did anybody see the interview with Oprah that she did, and that she said,
I did.
If you come in my house, you're gonna get shot.
She don't own a gun.
She talked about it. People gonna break into my house, you're gonna get shot. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. What do you stand for, and what do you believe? And then now, but for yourself, it's different.
Yeah.
Dude.
Hey,
did you see the meme with Netanyahu where it says the press? It says press. Is Israel behind the pager attack and the exploding pagers? And his response was, "So I was raised in a middle class family."
and then if you ask what's your policy on the border, it's always going to be, well, I was a prosecutor. So I was a middle class family, or I was a prosecutor. That's your answer to everything. Like, why were you speeding? Like, you get pulled over. Why were you speeding? Just say, well, I was raised in a middle class family, and it'll get you out of the ticket, right?
Absolutely.
Unreal,
Absolutely.
man. Unreal.
Everyone should try that.
Yeah, it'll work. I promise. Kamala does it. She can be president. You can get out of a ticket, surely.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate it was, but I saw something on X today that apparently she used a freaking teleprompter for that Oprah interview.
I saw it.
Is that
real?
I
saw the prompter.
Is it real?
You listen. I'm not going to waste the time researching it.
Less?
But do you expect anything less in her ability to think for herself? I would guess that it's probably accurate.
And then you contrast that with freaking JD Vance, man. That press conference he did in the middle of his campaign stop there in Wisconsin, that's the best thing I've ever heard in politics. We haven't had that in so long. Somebody who just calmly answered the questions articulately. And I mean, he absolutely destroyed those reporters without them knowing they were being destroyed on every single question. But I don't know if y'all watched it or not.
I did see it. He had no notes. He spoke from his heart. And actually, that book, the Parasitic Mind, that I'm starting, is talking about how the American population they're making decisions on politicians based on emotion and not what they actually do. And now, so then you take and look at the Kamala campaign, and I've watched a ton of her stuff. Zero policy, 100% emotion. And you know what's sad is a lot of the American population is falling for it.
Yep.
And that weird silence at the end because we're not together and we're like trying not to talk over each other. So I can't wait for us to get back together because doing it now remotely is murder.
Yeah, I hate remote. I hate this. I hate all of it. This is terrible.
I hate life.
I hate trying to turn my
All right,
computer on.
can I wrap it up now?
No.
Well, can I say whenever I hear the word, and I'm sorry, but whenever I hear the name Kamala, all I think about is an old wrestler that was from the Parts Unknown, Kamala the Warrior. Look him up.
Oh,
Kamala the Warrior. That's awesome.
Look him up. Look up Kamala the wrestler.
Is that some 80s wrestling stuff right there?
Yep. I think he was actually from Arkansas.
No doubt.
Kamala the wrestler. Let me see if I can find something real quick. But that would involve me having to spell.
yeah. Hey, there he is.
That's him right there. Kamala, baby. He'd slap that belly.
I love it.
Hey, he come in and slap that belly. He'd slap that belly, buddy.
I can do that. I'm gonna be that for Halloween.
Great. That's a great one to end on right there.
Hey, I'll leave you one more thing to go look up for it, fellas. Everybody out there, if you want to get a good laugh, go look up Sleepy Joe yelling about who he's supposed to introduce.
Who's next?
Who's next?
Hey, I was waiting on him to yell, "Get off my lawn!" I was like, "What is happening?"
Well, he asked, "Who am I supposed to introduce?" or something like that. Who is that? What he said? He asked him first,
and then he yells into the mic like the Indian Prime Minister's here in the crowd. He goes, "Who's next?"
He's mad because nobody told him. No, he got mad because nobody said anything when he's like, "Who am I supposed to introduce next?" He's like, there's this moment of silence. Nobody says anything, and so he yells at him, "Who's next?"
I was like, "Oh my gosh, man! Sad state of affairs."
Yeah. I'm done.
All right, we can wrap it up now. Y'all done?
I think we're done, sir. But we could talk NIL, but never mind.
No.
Well, we didn't talk.
No.
We didn't talk NIL. We didn't talk presidential assassination.
Oh yeah, there's so much.
There'll be 3 more of those this week. So there'll be 3 more of those this week.
Keep tuning in.
Hey, listen, we're the boss of this podcast, and even though we're at 1 hour, if there's somebody still listening, we can still blab. How about let's blab real quick on the Trump assassination? Was it Matt Gaetz said that this is a congressman. He said there are 5 assassination teams working to get Trump, 2 domestic, 3 foreign. And he said he got that from the who was it? Homeland Security, I think. I can't remember his source.
Intel yeah. I saw that. Unreal. And that cat they
Y'all
just
heard
got.
that? Go ahead, Eric.
Can you not push out the perimeter and get a drone up and find somebody sitting in the woods for 12 minutes with thermal imaging?
12 hours. Yes.
12 hours. 12 hours.
No. Should have been swept.
12 hours.
Hey, dude was sitting in the bushes eating Cheetos. He's sitting eating Cheetos, waiting on Trump to show up. I mean, what are we
Order
doing
some
here,
Domino's
man?
pizza. You know,
He's pooping in the bushes, man.
He's on every watch list. He's on every list known to man too. We know who he is.
How did Why was he not checked when he came in the country?
Well, I think he's an American who went and fought for the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. And so he was over there recruiting Americans to fight on behalf of Ukraine. Yep. And so he's kind of nuts, but he also had a lot of contact with government officials throughout his time. He's got pictures with some of them. I think he's got a picture with Obama's cook.
Yeah.
Apparently Obama's cook was a famous cook.
New York Times interviewed him.
He and that other guy, the last assassin, were both pictured in a BlackRock ad. Did y'all see that?
Okay, yes. I saw that, and I think was that debunked, Eric? Do you know?
I did see something where they think it might be debunked, but you know what I'm using now as when it's officially debunked? I love this about X, community notes.
Yes.
The community notes. When those pop up, I'm like, okay, all right. There you go. There's my answer. But no, I don't know it for sure. But man, at this point, I'm all in for it's all possible. At this point, I absolutely think I'm just going to say it. I'm nuts. I'm crazy. I'm this conspiracy theorist. It's an inside job.
I agree 100%.
We're out there. Yeah.
Well, this also shows you. So I love looking at the front page of newspapers because that tells you how they're trying to brainwash you at the time. So the president of the United States gets shot at, or the guy was set up to shoot him.
Yep.
And this is the Monday paper. Okay, when we get in there. What's the lead story? Vance keeps saying that they're killing cats in Ohio. Okay. And then when you really get in here and you look on the side, there is one little snippet right there. It says, it's right here. And it says, notice the terminology, a parent to shoot at Trump. A parent. Is it the lead story? No. It's becoming like they're just, it's no big deal. Somebody else is shooting at Trump. Now imagine if that were Hillary Clinton or Obama. Dude, you would have every militia known to man would be all white people are horrible. They're all evil. And it would be nonstop, but they memory hole it. Every time something happens, they just memory hole it immediately. And it's actually disgusting. And I have to keep getting the paper because I want to see what's going on in Arkansas. But man, the lead story in the Arkansas Democrat has been so slanted now for years.
And because of that, it's everybody's becoming so desensitized to the fact that there were 2 assassination attempts back to back. If this would have happened years ago, like it'd have been in the history books that there was even an attempt, one. But now we're so desensitized as a society to the fact that there was even. It's just crazy.
Well, I mean, again, we watch so many shows, FBI shows and mystery shows and stuff that, The Last Survivor and all this kind of stuff that when there's an attempt on a president's life, now it's like, oh, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
To us. But it's not normal. It shouldn't be normal. It shouldn't be something
never.
we allow. We should not allow it to be normal in our life.
And right. And I've known this for years because when you deal with crazy people and people who are off their kilter, because a lot of times, like in the last 10 years, a lot of the calls law enforcement responds to are freaking nuts. The amount of mental illness and crazy people in the world, especially in large population centers, is off the chart. And when you hear, and these people have thinking like a little kid, like when you were a kid, if you saw something on TV, you thought that meant it was normal, right? Because you were young and you didn't know any better until your parents told you. So if you saw something on TV, you're like, well, that's normal behavior. So now when they pop on Fox News or CNN and they're seeing these commentators say that this man is a threat to democracy. That's the same terminology you would use for Hitler. It's almost like a calling out to all the crazies to go do their thing. And that is a deal, because they do. When you go into these people's houses, they have the news on running nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people who think the FBI is in their ceiling, somebody's smoking dope in their attic. They are off their rocker. And they hear that from prominent officials that they respect. And they think, well, I'm doing a good thing. This is how I can become famous. I will help the world because apparently I'm going to take out a bad guy. It's disgusting.
The FBI is in my ceiling, so.
Well, let's hope they're not in your pager.
I'm just saying. Well, there's that.
My daughter tells them, she looks at her phone every night and says, "Good night, FBI guy."
Well, that's why when you're texting your buddies, I like sending them keywords that make the NSA pick up on their text string, make them all nervous. It's great.
They're in your Alexa.
100%. Alexa's been used to solve a murder, actually. They subpoenaed the records and got them, and it recorded everything. So, yeah, listening devices everywhere.
Eric, you want to hit on NIL?
Negative, sir.
Come on, man.
Dude, that'd be a 30-minute conversation by itself.
You were on your chair yelling at the world like a crazy person. You wanted to do NIL. We demand it, sir.
Sir, that is a whole show by itself, because that leads down so many rabbit holes.
Well, we're never going to dedicate a whole show to it, so here's your shot.
Well, you know what I mean.
Hey, give us your best 2 minutes.
Oh, thanks. All right. Okay. Everybody's up in arms and got their take on the whole Hunter Yurachek thing, where he said we need, X number of Arkansans to chip in. How many? 1,000?
Who is Hunter Yurachek?
Oh, the athletic director at Arkansas. Okay. All right. Who I may be in the minority, but I like the guy. I think he's a pretty good athletic director. Overall, I kind of like the guy. Everybody's got their opinion on, great job, Hunter, by saying that. It's about time people get off their butts and chip in. Or, how dare he, say that about Arkansas in this kind of a poor state. And I look at it just a little bit different. I don't blame him. He's doing his job because by the way it's set up right now, that's what we got to have that, okay? But I look at it, I come at it from, it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because I love the game so much. I love college football. And that's just another nail in the coffin of college football for me, is the fact that he has to, that's his job now. And then like the day after that, Tennessee comes out and announces they're adding a 10% talent fee to all ticket sales of all athletic events going forward in the future for NIL.
But how different is that the money that they already, whenever you get season tickets, you got to give money to the foundation already.
This is in addition. This is more.
Oh, we need a donation to the foundation. I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's still the same thing. It's just more on top of it.
Well, my point is now, what I was getting at is I feel like in my lifetime, definitely in my lifetime, we're going to lose the ability to follow our hogs or for it to be a thing like it was growing up. What's next? I firmly know what's next. We're going to have to start buying a completely new TV subscription to be able to watch football.
Yeah.
Like a Sunday ticket type of thing. It's just
how about the Marshall coach with his comment to the Ohio State players saying, "Hey, we got biscuits down here. We got Teeter's biscuits.
Yeah.
Any of you want to come down here and play for us? You can get these Teeter's biscuits, all you can eat." You're going to start seeing coaches have to be pimped out to the NIL stuff, and then you're going to start seeing these coaches just like that. I know it was kind of a joke, but it really wasn't, because if they came, by golly, he'd make sure they got Teeter's biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to start seeing them having to recruit other players from other teams while they're on other teams.
Yeah, and you're right. And I want to tell you too, I think, and I wish we had more time. I feel not necessarily just Arkansas, but some of the play we're seeing on the field is not as good. There's lots of talent on the field all over the place, but the teams themselves aren't as cohesive. They don't execute as well. And that's all over college football. It's not just our Razorbacks. They're struggling right now execution-wise. But it's because these teams are together for a year at a time. And next year, Arkansas will have 37 brand new players. Taylor Green will have a decent year and get offered $2 million to go play for Alabama next year. So he'll move on to go play for Alabama. Or our backup, who didn't get to play this year, will move on. So it's just destroying the game of college football. And then the kids themselves are corrupted by what we talked about earlier, the love of money. It's not their fault. If I was 18, I'd do the same thing. I'd want the Gucci and the Corvette and all the women and all that, but it's just destroying the game of college football, and I don't like it. So I wish we had more time.
It was always there. It was more of a hooker than it was behind.
I'll take
that.
Give that back to me.
Moped.
Give that back to me.
Right? It was like riding a moped. It's a lot of fun, and you want it, but you don't want nobody to see you with it.
Right.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree. It's always been there. Yes, paying players, but guys weren't making $2 million a year.
No.
And they weren't. They weren't getting. It's way different. And there's no going back now. Me and Chris talked about this. There's no going back now. You cannot stop it anymore. It's too late.
No, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Nope.
So, Chris, give me your opinion on it, and then I'll drop mine in.
I was going to say to Eric's point about these teams not being cohesive and players leaving, and you're going to have a whole new team next year. Well, look at the best teams in college football right now. Some of the best: Bama, Georgia. How long has Milroe been in Alabama? 3-4 years.
3 years. Mm-hmm.
How long has that quarterback been at Georgia? 3 years.
What?
2 years.
Has he been there 3?
No, 3.
2 years.
Yeah, I think it's 3. It's either 2 or 3 now. Yeah.
They've both
he's been there a while
for multiple years. Yeah, and what? So, anyway.
Well, did you?
First of all, let's go back to Hunter Yurchek. How dare you ask me for $100?
Let's go.
I can barely buy groceries.
Well, you're right. You're right, Chris.
It's not my fault that the Hogs suck. It's not my fault. It's his fault. It's their fault. It's your job to get the money, and you're not doing it. Get the money.
Yeah, it's not Arkansans' job to make sure the Razorbacks are good. If you as a fan want to donate, that's one thing. But it's not the job of our state to make NIL work for a college.
And I'm going
now
to
now that that's been brought out,
pay a dime to anybody's NIL. I will never buy anybody a Gucci suit, a Gucci bag, no shoes. Like go to the locker room and get you some Razorback shoes. Go get you a Razorback hoodie if you want. Yeah. If you're, like I had a guy I went to high school with. He played for the Hogs. This is back in 08, 09. And he said, if my shoe messed up, if I had a blowout in my shoe, I could go to the equipment room and say, I had a blowout, I need a new pair of shoes. And they would hand him a brand new pair of shoes.
We saw it ourselves, Chris.
I'm cold. I need a hoodie. I need a jacket. Here you go. Have this brand new Nike hoodie, brand new Nike
So
sweater, whatever.
the a couple points. Were you done, Chris? My bad.
No,
It's hard
I'm not
talking
done.
remotely. Let's go. Get on it, preacher boy. Get up there.
Hey, can I
Let's
real
go.
quick before Chris? I got one
No.
little nugget to add before I forget, Chris. Don't let me forget. I'll come back to it, Chris.
All right, let's go right quick right now.
No, no. Go ahead. I want you to finish. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, hunters come across was like that. It's our fault that the hogs are the way they are, like they are. But put a product on the field, and you might get some money. He's not doing that.
Well, let's cover a couple things here.
I'm ready, Eric.
Bob said it's always been going on, and I saw proof of it when I worked at Cogswell Motors and Corliss Williamson, and that crew came through. I was working in the car wash bay after high school, and I prepared 4 brand new and at the time highly, highly popular Ford Explorers that were completely decked out with sound systems that would blow your mind. And I learned that they were going to Arkansas basketball players. So that's one thing. And then here's the thing that makes me most disgusted by the NIL, and it's unfortunate, is every dollar that goes to a snot-nosed kid to play football is money that is not going to legit charities. Because I'm not sure if they're tax write-offs or not, but you got to think a company that was going to donate so much money for cancer, research or whatever, now is having to decide, well, if I'm Tyson, do I want to donate to the university so we can compete, or am I going to give this money? There's only a certain pot you can pull from, and that money, that extra money, is being pulled from charities. That's the thing I can't take.
It's definitely got to come out of at least their advertising budget.
Well, that and their advertising budget's going to have to explode, which is probably going to take something out somewhere else. And then the last thing is asking Arkansans, you got to know where you're at. This isn't L.A. You're asking folks to give $100 a month. You're going to immediately get blowback. If you came at us and said, hey, maybe $10 a month, and then if you like a guy, you can increase it, decrease it. But coming right out of the gate at $100 a month, and I'm like, you're out of your mind, fool. You think I'm going to pay you $100 a month so some snot-nosed kid can go get a new car and then go play for Alabama next year? I love my hogs, but like I ain't doing it.
But see, money's relative, because in his world, $100 is nothing.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So when he says $100, he doesn't think, he's like, man, it's just $100. But you know what? $100, that's
bro.
That's some groceries on my table, buddy.
Hey, I'm trying to get my wife to let me spend $100 a month on Amazon. You think and she won't let me do it. You think I'm gonna give that up? You're out of your mind. I haven't even gotten it.
So let me say this again: try your best to not look at what Hunter Yurachek said as he's talking necessarily to us like it's our problem. It's not just Hunter Yurachek.
But he was.
Hold on. Let me finish. Every single athletic director in the entire United States at every Division I college is asking the fan base the exact same question. We need more, and it's never going to stop. This is not about Hunter Yurachek. It's not about how good the hogs are. It's not about how good they're ever going to be. It's about they need more money because the next school is doing more and doing more. If he don't ask for that, he's screwed, and he knows it. It's not going to stop.
If it's not
it
about,
will stop because what they're going to do, they'll put a cap. They'll put a cap on it, and then it'll go right back to the way it was. Okay, now we got a cap. We got this operating cap we can use that is legal, and then we'll still do the other that's illegal so that we can get the other players that we're still wanting.
Well, on that note, if they ever try to go backwards, the the what's the word I'm looking for? The culture or the media. I say the media. I can't think of another way to say it. Will accuse everybody of being, I'll say racist. Depriving these kids of what they rightfully earned.
That's racist.
So here's what I was trying to say, though. Okay, here's what I'm trying to say. This is not a Hunter Yurachek problem. This is not an Arkansas problem. It's a culture problem, and it's a college football problem now that is not going back in the jar. And so what I told Chris the other day,
I agree
that Hunter, I do not blame Hunter Yurachek one single bit. I have not one bit of hard feeling towards him for saying what he said. Okay, I'm sad, not mad, not angry. I'm not like screw him. I'm just sad that that's where we're at. And I'll say this: I told Chris I'll never give $1, like he said. I'll never give $1 to a single player to play football at the University of Arkansas or any school for that matter, ever. Okay, ever. And if that's what it takes, and this is, if it means something, if it's coming from me to say this. If that's what it takes for Arkansas to be big-time college football and to win a national championship, I don't want it. I don't want it. And that when I say that, that hurts me to say that. I don't, because I told Chris, what if I gave, and Mike, you touched on it, I think, if I gave $100 a month to Arkansas Edge right now because, man, I saw, even though he struggles a little bit, Taylon Green has so much raw ability. If we can keep him for 2 more years, that dude's going to be a beast in 2 years because he's so talented. All that's true. So I'm going to give him my $100 a month, right? Guess what? He won't be here next year because Ohio State has $20 million. Georgia has 30 or whatever it was. Now,
Dude,
Texas has
KJ Jefferson took his bank bags and his Gucci suits, gave us a crummy season that left.
There you go. This is not
if it's not about how good a program is, then how come all these other schools are so far ahead of us in NIL money?
Resources, tradition. You're right.
Miss
Ohio State traditionally.
Miss surpassed us.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, we got more money in Arkansas than they got in Mississippi.
Then
I just don't think it's
and Walmart and all the. It's just.
I just don't think it's a program issue.
You cannot tell me that if we weren't winning, if we weren't pumping out 8, 9, 10 wins, that we wouldn't have an NIL problem.
I still think we'd have an NIL problem. I still think we would. Yes.
No, I'm saying we wouldn't be behind the 8 ball though on NIL.
I think we would. Yeah, I do. I think we would be. I believe that with all my heart. Arkansas just traditionally. Now I know there's others that you can say, well, Mississippi doesn't have near the money we do. You're right. They don't.
They don't.
But I still think Arkansas would be behind.
How they surpassed us in NIL.
Even at our best, even in our best years, it's been a struggle to recruit to Arkansas traditionally. I'm not saying there weren't outliers along the way.
Agreed.
But traditionally, we've always been behind in everything. We've always just played really hard, recruited tough kids.
An average 6-win team?
No, that's wrong. In the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, we were 7, 8, 9. Bobby had us in the top 5 a couple of years. Now, since Bobby, it's been way down.
The past 10 years, though, our average, that's caused our whole average to drop way down.
Yeah.
I'm saying over
I'm never going to argue with you that we're not a good program. I agree, we're not. But I don't think it has anything to do.
A motorcycle ride took our whole program down.
Show did. Show did. I just think there's a lot of people like me out there who feel like, did Mike just drop? Who feel like if it doesn't matter how good we are, I'm not giving $100 a month to kids who already get a quality education, everything they could want for, paid for, and they're already making $1 million. I'm not doing that. So that's where I think it comes from. I'm right
there with you on that, 100%.
That's where I think it comes from, though. I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's NIL. I don't think it's a program I still think we'd be way short of 5,000 people, is what I was trying to say. That's a long way around that, but I still think we'd be way short of 5,000 people, even if we were good.
I disagree. Mike, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I think the program comes up. I think the NIL goes up.
100%.
You're right. You're right too. Both of you are right, but I still think we'd be short of others.
I mean, just look at basketball. Look at basketball. We bring in a coach and
Overnight,
automatically overnight our NIL was
You're
like
right.
through the
the
roof.
best in
You're
the
right.
country.
You're right.
Yeah. So
That's
Best in the country, but you're not supplying an 85-man roster either.
There you go.
no,
There you go.
no, you're not. But still, I mean, it's the same as all the other ones. All the other schools in basketball are not supplying that in basketball either. So, I mean, but in that, we bring in a coach, and next thing you know, we got NIL running out our, all of our orifices, So, football, it can happen, but it's going to take some putting a quality product on the field consistently. And then you can go out and your check can go out and say, hey, look at what we're putting on the field. With your money, we can make this happen more. And I think that's where it'll come from.
I'll propose one for you. I would say, I'd venture a guess. Arkansas could win 10 games a year for the next 5 years. Let's just say that. 5 years, 3 years, 3 to 5 years. And I would be willing to bet money on it that Arkansas's NIL program will be no better than 8th, 9th, 10th in the conference. In football.
Agree.
No better. Even winning 10 games a year. We cannot compete NIL-wise in football with the people who are bringing in $30 million a year in football. And that's what it will take to be the program that we're wanting.
Well, I think you're going to have to be there to get there.
I don't think we get there, man. I just don't.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
10 games.
I don't think you can get there. I don't think you can get 10 games a year consistently without being there.
Here's something that Razorback fans, because I've grown up and I've heard it. Razorback fans think because we have Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, and a few others that we do have some amazing companies here, but they don't have the perspective of being in a state that one city has more Fortune 500 companies than Arkansas. So, for example, Texas has 52 Fortune 500 companies, okay? 52. You know how many Arkansas has? 4.
How many does Mississippi
Texas they have 52. Mississippi, that's probably going to be a close one right there. If I get rid of this ad. Arkansas's at 4. Maybe I have to go to the next page. Maybe it's 1.
How many does
we might be shocked here.
How many does Missouri have?
Missouri's got 7. Again,
Missouri's got a bunch.
Missouri's got more than we do. Man, Virginia's got 24. Florida's got 22. So all of us think, oh, well, we got Walmart. Well, when you look at the rest of the country, I think we're about Alabama. Here's the funny thing. Alabama's got 2. Alabama has 2, but Alabama's got tradition. Tennessee's got 10, and I don't even know if Mississippi's on this deadgum list.
So, what about this though? Because of this NIL coming into play, what do you think that the Alabama could end up being on the decline?
Yes.
Because these other states are going to start pumping into their own programs. And then Alabama is left, with their 2 Fortune 500 cup,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there's a chance.
There are no
according to this
Mississippi
article I just
companies in the
found,
state of
there are
Mississippi.
none.
Zero.
there are none.
Zero in
What I
Mississippi.
was getting ready to say though, I think we're putting too much stake in Fortune 500 companies. Okay, and there are going to be outliers.
Well, I think we're putting too much stake in. I think we're putting too much stake in the companies loving their own state, loving their own.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I mean,
Well, there's a
Just
reason
because they're here
Texas.
don't
money
mean-
into the fine arts business.
yeah, they may actually want to put money somewhere else besides
They do.
athletics.
Well, there's a reason Texas is the richest university in the country. It's a reason. You know,
Yeah.
there's rich people and rich companies down there. A&M, man, A&M, the amount of money they got going through A&M makes us. Y'all have no clue the amount of money that A&M can build and do anything that they want, and we're trying to compete with that.
Have any of y'all ever been to the TCU campus?
Yes.
When you're driving to TCU, the homes that are just right there around it they're enormous. They are crazy homes, and so that's something we just don't have.
No, SMU is in one of the richest areas of the Dallas area. They've got plenty of money. There's just nobody wants to play there, because they're, for whatever reason, just nobody wants to play. But SMU's got big time donors, big time money rolling in there.
The moral of the story is Arkansas is screwed, basically. That's what
I agree. I agree. In this model, we are.
In this model, we're screwed.
In football, I think in basketball, the roster's small enough that I think that's what Tyson and Walmart and everybody decided to do. We want football to win a natty, but we only got the money to do basketball, and we're gonna go all in on basketball and see what happens. And I think that's really the only viable model that we could do.
But that money
So the
doesn't
top
continue
here's
after
according
Cal.
to. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
Go ahead. No, I'm done.
I was just going to say the top, according to 24/7 Sports, article dated August 27th of this year, they've got the top 50 schools ranked in their value in NIL. Who do you think number one in the country is?
Texas.
Ohio State.
And Eric froze right whenever we were going to get the amazing information. There he is.
Oregon.
Oh, Nike.
Oh,
Oregon.
Nike.
Number two, Texas A&M. Number 3, Texas. 4, Florida. 5, Georgia. 6, Oklahoma State. 7, LSU. 8, Oklahoma. 9, Auburn. And 10, Florida State.
Yeah.
There are, let's
Where's
see, how many
Arkansas?
SEC schools is that? Hold on. Let me see how many SEC schools that is in the top 10. There are 1,
Probably 7.
2, 3, 4,
8.
5, 6, 7. 7 in the top 10. Alabama's at 12. Tennessee's at 14. South Carolina's at 18. And that's it for the top 25. Your next SEC school would be Mizzou at 31.
Oh, my.
Kentucky, Ole Miss. Then there's Arkansas. Arkansas at 37. 37. Mississippi State at 39. Yeah. So Ole Miss is not that far ahead of us. Ole Miss is not that far ahead of us.
Yeah. Sad state of affairs, man.
Colorado's only at 46. Guess who rounds out the top 50? Memphis.
What?
Yeah, Memphis.
Wow.
That's pretty wild,
it's
man.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Wow. Unreal. Yeah.
All right,
So,
Chris.
Anyway,
That's crazy.
Pray us out.
Yeah, I think if anybody's still listening, I encourage you to
I told
check
you it was
your
a whole
foundation.
episode worth.
It's okay.
We got it in 30 minutes. I encourage you, everybody who's listening, man, to check your foundation, check what really matters in your life. Check if you are chasing the wind, man. Check your priorities, get them in order. I encourage you to do that. And I'll pray us out of here. Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for these men. Thank you for this podcast. I thank you for allowing us to do this. And I pray that you bless it and use it for your glory and your kingdom. I pray for everyone listening, Lord. I pray that you give us the strength, Father, to check ourselves, to check our foundation, to make sure that you are at the center of the foundation, to make sure that we love you with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and that we love our neighbor as ourselves. 2 commandments that you wrapped up everything with, Father. I pray that you give us strength to do that. Lead and guide us by your Holy Spirit in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you for listening to the Life After Sunday podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a comment, and go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.